wood shop. Thank God for wood. I could send her on the lathe and I could make the furnace shine. The teacher couldn't make as good a lamp face as mine. My parents came on Parents' Day. They saw my stuff and said, he ain't no Einstein, no, but he's good. Wood shop. Thank God for wood.
How's the weather in Germany, Kai?
Cold, a little bit rainy, so autumn weather in Germany.
No snow yet, huh?
No, that will take some time. But it's wet, rainy, a bit unpleasant. No sunshine at the moment. So what about you? What's the weather where you live?
Well, it's gotten cold.
I'm going to take this over right now because it's 10 o'clock and it's Lancaster Woodturners coffee hour, and the frost is on the pumpkin here. First frosty morning of the year.
There's snow on the ground in Vermont, half an inch.
And you say raining in Germany, Kai?
Yeah, it's rainy. It's not too cold, but it's unpleasant. So wet and a bit cold. Yeah. We had frost a few days ago as well. So but at the moment there's no frost.
All right. How about you guys? How about you guys down in the Carolinas? You don't have frost yet, do you?
We're frozen. It's 45. Rainy this morning.
Yeah. Raining.
47 and raining.
Yeah.
45 degrees. Everybody's frozen. I can't believe it. Anyway.
That's just the northerners.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm the furthest north, and we just had our first frost. I think more or less. I was at my son's about, I don't know, 10, 15 miles north of me, and we had flakes in the area yesterday afternoon. Coming off Lake Huron.
Are you actually further north, like geographically, than northern Vermont?
We're at the 44th parallel.
How about you, Ted? Where are you?
4.5.
I have no idea, but it's snow on the ground.
We're like about 47, actually. I think northern Vermont's further north than Niagara Peninsula.
Oh, I'm in central Vermont. The reason I have snow, I'm at 1,500 feet, so it's just a dusty.
The elevation there.
Well, somebody who comes on here is from way up in the Northern Kingdom. I'm not sure who that is.
John came on from Alaska.
Yeah, we had a guy from Alaska one time. That's a bit north. I think Karen Drennan lives up there. So you guys probably know where Karen lives. Anyway, this is a coffee hour. We're going to generate our own entertainment this morning. We have a few things in the room to show you. Who out there has got stuff? If you just give me a quickie show of hands so I have a clue of 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got enough. Plenty of stuff here. Okay. Barry wanted to ask a question. So I'm going to start with Barry.
I had a question. I was making some ebonizing solution, the usual vinegar and steel wool thing. And as in the past, it does fine on like red oak and maybe cherry, but if I put it on a lot of woods, it doesn't have much of an effect. And I understand that's because of the lack of tannin in the wood. And I'd read about brushing on a coat of like tannic acid or tan bark solution. I wonder if anybody out there has any experience on doing this with wood, with basically building in a layer of tannin into a non-tannin containing wood, like let's just say maple.
What do you say, guys? Anybody know?
I haven't done that, Barry, but I've used black harness dye instead of the leather filings and shavings, or the shavings that
come into the camera here. Just change chairs so you're in the room. Yeah,
I've done black harness dye on with instead of the iron filings, and that dyes my maple anything you want. It's so black, and it really absorbs into the pores of the wood very well. So harness
dye is formulated for leather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's pour. It goes in.
It's a
pores.
liquid. Yeah.
It's a liquid,
Yeah.
and trust me, it dyes everything. The table, you know, I used to do. We had wood tables, and it'd get black on the table. So,
well, not to derail the conversation, but is there a reason you will not sit over there?
yes, I want to annoy you as much as possible.
Well, I want to see you on screen. You always have things to say.
Sorry. Yeah.
But I have tried.
Yeah, right in the middle here. You know,
There.
Come on in closer to the table. I mean, we've got the guys. You know, there's guys come here. They sit at the back over there, which must be 40 feet away, and then they wonder why the microphones don't pick them up.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
As you can tell, there's 3 of us in the room this morning. Okay, I'm going to remove that spotlight and go back to the gallery, and let's see what you got. Anybody else got any thoughts on that besides harness dye for making the black dye work in wood?
I have the way you use black dye, but it looks black going on, but when it's all dry, there's a kind of like a purple, deep blue color to it. It's not ink black.
It's not actually black, yeah. Harness dye, is that true of harness dye as well, do you think?
I don't know.
Question for Doug.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, how dense is that dye? Does it hide the grain a lot or not?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hide the grain too much, and you have to put on 2 or 3 layers of it to get it really good and black. But
Yeah.
you know,
I think Minwax has one of their oil stains is a black ebony that's actually pretty black.
I use a Speedball black ink.
yeah.
Speedball black ink,
Speedball.
and that
Yeah.
really does a nice job too on all kinds of wood.
Is it an
I
actual
bought-
stain?
It's
Is it an
like
actual stain or a reactant? Does it stain the wood by its own colorant, or does it react with chemical in the wood?
I couldn't tell you that, but I just know it works.
I mean, it goes on black.
Yes, very black. And you want to wear gloves because it gets on your fingers and then you can't wash it off very easily.
Right.
Barry, I've heard of using brushing with strong tea before, putting the vinegar steel
And
wool thing on.
I had read that just this morning, and not more than half an hour ago, brewed about 10 tea bags in water, and it's sitting out in my shop right now. But I also heard about some kind of a South American bark that is used in the tanning industry. And it got me wondering about, you know, on Amazon, you can buy tannic acid that is meant for wine, for making wine. And I'm wondering if tannic acid for wine would do the job.
Sure. I bought Fibing's US Marine Corps 40 black about almost 20 years ago and used it on a few things, on finials. And the first one I did was on a honey locust bowl I did for my daughter. And it was spectacular. I put a Danish oil on top of it, I think. And India ink works well.
That Fibing's that you're talking about is actually the harness dye that I'm talking about too.
Yeah.
So it's the same product.
Yeah, it's an alcohol base. It dries quickly. Your best, you don't want to put a shellac on it that you got to rub because it'll wipe it off, but you can lacquer on it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it called, Michael?
Fibing's, it's USMC 40 leather dye. I picked it up off the Google news forum, like way back before there were other forums, you know.
Okay.
I think John Lucas recommended it. It works great. If you can find it, I've happened to find some at a shoe repair in a town nearby, and I still have about half the bottle.
I don't know, Barry, do you think there's any harness makers around Lancaster that might have some for you?
Yeah. I'll try a couple of things and experiment and maybe report back at some future time.
You're looking for leather dye. Tandy Supply is also a leather supply company that does all sorts of dyes and stuff like that.
So Mackey Leather on Route 23 on the way out here has a very good inventory of all that. I wouldn't be surprised they got a black dye there.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, Doug.
Yeah.
Black shoe polish. That would be a leather dye, huh? No?
No. No, it's not quite the same because it's sort of a wax instead of a
It doesn't
dye.
penetrate, it just sits on the surface.
No, no,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the liquid, not the wax.
If you use the liquid stuff that you're used to put on before you know for the white spots to cover up the spots in your leather, that's a dye.
Okay.
But anyway,
Okay, maybe Barry, you got enough on that?
Yeah, yeah, I'll experiment and I'll report out in the future or something with wood sample results.
Okay. Doug, can you bring up those slides?
yeah.
We had a very fun club meeting on Tuesday night this week. With miniatures were the challenge, and unlike a lot of the challenges that we've had lately, the miniatures, a lot of people participated. And one of our members here, Kai, had sent us some pictures, and they went to the Doug's spam folder. So we're going to show Kai's pictures now, because Kai's here on screen and he can talk to it.
Sorry.
We'll show Karen Drennan's on the way.
So
I just saw that flash by.
this is Karen's.
Karen, are you here?
No, that's Kathy Gowers.
Kathy.
Kathy Gowers.
Sorry, Kathy Gowers. Did you send me one, Karen?
Here, we thought this was yours. Why did we do that?
Well,
I put that bottle of Carolina wine up there just so y'all would know it was me.
Oh, you didn't see it was. I saw bald head red. I said, "That's my wine."
is Kathy here today?
Kathy is here, actually. She was just talking right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the next one was Tom. Was this yours, Tom? Tom White?
Yes, yes. That was an example of what I was trying to do in a miniature. The piece on the left there is what I was trying to make.
Oh wow.
That one and that.
And those are the dimensions. The one on the right, I tried to make a wine glass, but it looks like it turned into a chalice, but that was sort of an accident.
Looks like a
mine.
Where do you guys get those expanded rulers?
Expanded rulers?
Yeah, I mean, so
That's a
it looks
giant
like
size.
an inch.
That's the Jolly Green Giant's ruler.
Oh, okay.
It's called an engineering ruler.
It is.
I got one. Yeah, I'll bring one next time. I can show you, Jim.
You know it's
Yeah,
an
right.
engineer's ruler because it says buffalo on it.
Yeah. Anyway, and then Judy showed us a couple things. You have any comments, Judy? I know
No,
she.
I'm just playing around with small, trying small pots. I'm actually, if you have any suggestions, like I really like the the shape and proportions of the walnut piece, and I tried to do that in something similar but smaller in the maple, and don't like the proportions at all. Do you have suggestions for getting proportions? Is there some rule of thumb?
Draw some more.
I wish I
thought
knew.
you might say that.
I wish there was some rule, but because
There is a rule, actually. The old rule is small whole numbers. The eye likes music and beats that are rhythmic beats, and the ear likes rhythmic beats, and the eye likes rhythmic spaces and shapes. So if it's 1 unit high, make it 2 units wide, not 2.5. Just start working with small whole numbers and avoid fractions, and that'll help. That's the step one in figuring out design, in my experience.
Another thing that I like to do is I like to hold the piece upside down, and if it's appealing in both directions, then it's a good piece.
I'm a big third guy. Put your heavy one on the bottom third or the top third. If you get it even all the way, that's when you don't like it. Go back. I think that's what the problem is, Judy. You have basically a straight maple piece, whereas you got your heavy part on the top third of the walnut. I think that looks good.
Okay, thank you. I will play with similar ratios in smaller and show you sometime soon. Thank you.
How big are those? How big are those?
I would guess that probably what's happening is normal sized things, you're more common and you see them more, you're going to build that proportion into it. When you do smaller, you lose that perspective because it's something new to you.
How perspective, how big are these? I wish there was a thumb or something in there so we could tell.
Sorry, this is the walnut.
Oh, you're holding it up. Okay.
No, I'm holding up my finger.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see it because I'm on. I'm looking at
3 inches, maybe something like that. 3.5.
Okay. Thank you.
Somewhere around here that everybody says, "Oh, I can't draw," and the answer in this situation to me would be to get some graph paper with 8 or 10 squares to the inch, and use that to draw. Draw yourself a center line, and then try and draw the same shape on both sides of it, and you can easily count squares to see exactly what your proportions are. And since paper's cheap, you can draw it 200 times if you have to.
Draw half of it and then use a mirror.
You can always do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for the suggestions. I hope to show you something more successful next time.
Thanks, Judy.
John, the only problem with drawing is you can't let your chisel run around the piece and discover it for itself.
Oh yeah, you can, but draw first and then go discover it with your chisel and see how your head and hands were informed by your drawing. You'll be surprised.
Well, I think, John, one of the things you did put as a comment is when you're drawing, I look at it as drawing 1/2 of it, because that's what you see when you're turning is only 1/2 of it.
Sure.
And folding it, then folding it in half. So when you're drawing and you think, oh, this is a great shape, then fold it and duplicate it that way, and then unfold it, and you'll find that you see some really wonky parts of your drawing too. So actually folding your drawing sometimes helps. Anyway. So Judy, that's it. I don't know if Angelo is on board today, but yes, he is. Angelo, can you unmute yourself and comment?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted. I hear you now.
This is a little goblet. It's about 3 quarters high, about 5/8 of an inch in diameter. The palm ivory is from a Ebonizing palm. The wood is ebony, and each ring is quarter.
Did you turn the rose spikes on there, or did you glue them on afterwards?
On afterwards, yeah.
Okay.
So you turned the little goblet with the 3 rings, and then glued on the rose thorns to lift the rings up and make them an obvious showcase and like that, and trap them. Is that about right? You must be on your phone or something, Angelo.
What is the top? What is the top?
That's the natural edge of the palm-nut. That's the skin of the palm.
The yellow is part of it?
The yellow is the palm ivory. It's like the natural edge on the top, and the bottom edge at the stem is like the skin of a coconut. You know, the dark skin after you open up a coconut.
Yep.
You got the white meat inside, and you've got a brown skin on top. That's what that is.
I thought you had poured chocolate around that top edge at first. So
yeah, that's it. Chocolate.
Very good job. Thank you, Angelo. Who's with me?
Hi, these are mine. This is Ken Vasco. See, those are all about 1.125" or 1.16". The 2 in the back are Cocobolo, and the 2 in the front are the Spectra ply. And what I do is right near my bandsaw, I always have a little bag. And anytime I have cutoffs of good wood, I just throw them in the bag, and then around Christmas time, I see what I can make out of them. Sometimes I make ornaments out of them. Sometimes I make little bowls, all sorts of little things. But the one little cookable one, bottom right, I think really had nice proportions. It had a nice small foot, and it worked out real well for me. I think the other one I'm going to put back on the lathe and take the foot off.
How are you going to grip it on the lathe when you put back?
Jam chuck.
Okay.
Jam chuck.
or maybe I'll just get out my little sander and do it on the sander.
Excuse me, this is small enough you could take a bit of jam and just put it on there and it'd glue onto the wood, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Bubblegum. Yeah.
I made a bunch of pieces getting smaller and smaller just because I want it for the sake of being perverted. Last week I showed you the 3 bigger ones, and then because people said, well, you need to do a captive ring and make them smaller still, I went after trying to captive ring for the first time on a small vessel.
That ring's pretty captive, all right.
Yeah, it's loose, but it's captive. It's, you know, I was afraid of going in there and making it any wider open, but when it started spinning, it's like, oh, gotta leave it. But it's loose. So, and now I'm just the size of it. That's the captive ring one is 3/4 of an inch long, and then the other one, the smallest one I made was just 3/8 of an inch tall. And now we come to the piece de resistance of our show, which is Kai.
Jeez.
So Kai, how did you make
Yes.
how did you cut the captive ring off?
I turned it cylindric first, or like a cylinder, and then I used the point of a skew chisel, of a small skew chisel, to cut in from the left and from the right until the 2 cuts met, and I could, and then I removed a little bit more of the wood on the left side and on the right side, until I could move the ring along, and then I pushed the ring to one side and turned the stem. Yeah, so that's it basically.
Is that boxwood?
That's boxwood, yes. And the ring is square, so it's not rounded, not rounded on the inside and not rounded on the outside. So I just left it square.
I picked that up immediately. Yeah, right.
You're disqualified.
Yeah. It's not round. You failed.
Okay.
Is the Korean boxwood the same as the other boxwood we're used to? Does it turn the same? Does anybody know about Korean boxwood?
I don't know. It actually is German boxwood. It grows here in small quantities, and
my neighbor just threw out a couple of boxwood bushes, and I went down with my mini chainsaw and took a bunch of stems from it, but I don't know if it's going to turn the same or not. So I'll let you know in a little while. It's just a decorative one you get at Walmart at Lowe's or Home Depot.
English boxwood is Buxus sempervirens is the biological name for it. I bought some Buxus sempervirens from Turkey. So is it Turkish boxwood or is it English boxwood that grew up in Turkey?
Who knows? I have some Turkish boxwood also, but I have no idea of its generic name.
Yeah, Buxus sempervirens is the boxwood, is English boxwood.
Liz still has the tag on it. I'll go look at it, see what it is.
When I visited the record plant in England many years ago, there was a pile of brush stacked up against one end of the warehouse. And in the course of the tour, the guy who was touring me said, well, that's our boxwood stash for handles. It was like hedges from the surrounding county, just chopped down and piled up just the way you'd pile it if you were going to burn it.
So you made a top as well, Kai?
Yeah, that's a little tippy top. The diameter is 5.5 millimeters, so it's just under 1/4 of an inch or so. And it actually works. I have a little video as well. Yeah, okay.
I was going to ask you if it flips. Okay.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's great. That is great.
Yeah.
Do it again. Play it again, please.
You just have too much time in your head.
I gotta go back to the beginning. I gotta.
Oh, never mind.
No,
Oh,
here
you
it
go.
goes. Here it goes.
Yeah.
Hey, Kai, was that video done in one take?
Yes, it was.
I like the winder. That's fabulous.
Yeah, my fingers are too clumsy to grip that little stem of the tippy top and to get it to speed. So with a starter or winder, it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not every time. I had to try maybe 2 or 3 times until I got it really spinning, because you mustn't press too hard, then it won't get to speed. And if you press too little, it doesn't work as well. So you just need the right pressure on the tippy top and then the right kind of amount of string movement, and then it will flip. So it doesn't work every time, but quite often.
So that I guess I'll end share there. That's our miniature challenge for the club from Lancaster for last month. Anybody else got any miniatures they wanted to show us or bring along? Oh, you had one, didn't you?
Yeah, I have my little chalice and plate that I showed the other night.
Hold it up.
So got it.
All right. Take that, Ron.
It's a 1/2 inch by 1.5 inches. I think the plate is about 2 1/4. Purple heart.
You said you're going to use it for communion next Sunday?
Yeah.
I got a question.
While I'm on here, I showed this fluted bowl the other day.
Yeah.
And it's sitting on a shelf, and I discovered something I don't like about it. I turned this wet, and let's see if I can show you that. You can see the distortion.
Yeah.
Yep.
It didn't stay round for me. And I like the turn thin wall bowls and let them change shapes and so forth. But with this, with the flutes and so forth on it, I wanted it to stay round. So I'm going to have to rough turn them, let them dry before I do any more of them. But sitting on the shelf like that, it's kind of disappointing to see that wavy edge on the top of it.
Well, you could take that up to your disc sander and fix that pretty quick.
Well, I could do that, but it's still, it's distorted even on the bottom. It's just, you can see when it's sitting there.
How many points are on that star, Ron? Bring that back for a second.
I'm sorry, what?
How many points are on that star?
12.
12.
12 points, yeah.
So that was 6 centers. You turned that off.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, what I did was I turned the inside first, and then I had about 1 inch thick piece of oak that I glued to 2. I had 2 bowls I glued to, and then I'm sitting on the lathe with the centers in the oak, and this thing is turning like so. So yeah,
for Cooterback's going to demo that for us.
I got down to the last 2. One of the bolts flew off, so I had to reglue it and finish up. So as you're turning, you're losing some of your glue area. You got all this taken out in each of these, and so you're losing some of your glue surface. And so you got to make sure you got a good tight fit on the inside ring and a good glue joint. And apparently I didn't.
Well, Mike Cooterback's is the guy who showed us that the first time I ever saw that anyway here at the club, and Ron picked it up from Mike, and he's going to do a demo for us, I think in February. Ben, is that right?
January.
January.
No, yeah, January. Yeah.
January. So we're going to try and do that right here in our little wood turning video studio.
Yeah, I want to see how he does it. I tried a couple different ways. I haven't been successful in either one.
Hey, Ron, when you glue it up, do you use paper bag between the 2, or do you just glue?
Yeah, I had paper between. Yeah, it's easy to separate once you're done because you take a lot of the glue surface away.
Who's next here? Show your hands. Who's got something they want to show? I saw a bunch of before.
John, I got a question first before you get away from the miniatures. You ought to make the challenge that you have to use your usual bowl gouge. I want to just ask what they were using to turn this, some like fingernail thing or what, because, I'm suspicious.
Little parting tools, skews and little parting tools.
I used my 3/4 inch fingernail gouge.
That's what I use.
We have to see a picture to believe that, but no.
I'll generate a video next time.
Oh, that would be fun, Doug. I'll help you do that. I'll come over.
Okay.
Are you going to provide magnifying glass so we can actually see it? So.
Yeah,
I make a variety of tools out of Allen wrenches.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, whatever shape you need. In fact, I have little hook tools to turn those captive rings, one for each side. Yeah.
Are Allen wrenches hardened at all, or are they just plain old soft metal?
hard.
The way they strip, they feel like they're softened.
Pretty hard. I use some dental picks. I have some dental picks I use for cutting rings off, captive rings. This little chalice I did, I drilled it with a 5/16, and then I have a 1/4 inch bow gouge, and I went in and scraped and cut a little bit on the inside to take the little brad point tip out of the bottom.
Jim, the hardness of
I believe the Allen wrenches are case hardened, especially at the tips that go into the female part of the screw. But I find that regardless of whether it's hardened or not, they're all harder than wood that I'm turning on miniatures. Yeah, they hold an edge reasonably well. Yeah, I mean, they're easy enough to sharpen. Once you grind them away, you throw them away and make another one.
Depends where you buy them.
if they come from IKEA.
Yeah, there's a lot to that, I guess.
What kind of handles do you use on them?
Usually pen blanks. I can go out and get a few and show you if you like.
You got no camera, Angelo. If you got a camera, actually, all we're seeing is a black box for you today.
Yeah, I can turn the camera on.
Oh, okay, cool. You want to go out and get them? We'll go on to somebody else and come back to you.
Okay.
Alan Miller, you had a question?
He's got some tools there too.
Okay. Go ahead, Alan. And we'll go back to Kai.
My comment was to Jim Bowman about the IKEA. I got that in already.
All right. Kai, you got some tools there?
Yeah, if you can spotlight me, I'll try to show them. Otherwise, I'll take some photos if it's too small. So that is one of them. It's, well, how should I hold it? It's like a scraper made of a concrete nail. So these nails are shot into concrete and they have a thread at the end, and they are quite cheap. So I can grind them several times until I get the right shape. And if I lose it or it breaks off because it's too small, I just regrind it or take another one if it gets too short. And then there is an adapter. Doesn't come off easily. So yeah. So that's a metric thread with a thread for wood on the other side. They have a name, these things, stud bolt or something like that. I'm not quite sure what it is in English.
We call them hanger bolts.
Or hanger bolts? Okay, so it's a hanger bolt, a file handle, hanger bolt screwed into the file handle. Of course, you could turn your own handle, then this thing goes on there.
Somebody named that concrete nail with a thread one day. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
So the sleeve is a threaded sleeve then you're putting on the handle.
Yeah, that's a threaded sleeve, and then the nail. But you could use any kind of nail, concrete nail here. It doesn't have to be that constructed this way. But that's easy because you can change the end of the nail easily once you lose your shape or want to have another shape. So
they're very hard, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's harder than wood, so it works nice. That's just that's the skew chisel I used for the captive ring. So
Bring it
that's
closer
just,
to your face. The camera wants to focus on your, yeah, there you go.
so that's just a standard miniature skew chisel, which is made by Robert Sorby, for example. Yeah, and I've got some other of these tools. Just have to protect the tip. So that's a small parting tool ground at the end of the nail. So they make nice small tools and they are inexpensive. So that's really nice.
Do you wear magnifiers when you do miniature work?
Yes, I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't see it. I think that's the most important tool.
Do you wear magnifiers like the dentist wears, or do you wear like just a 2 power or 5 power? What do you wear?
I think it magnifies by the factor 2, and it's not as good as the one my dentist has. When he does root channel work, he has a very good magnifying glass. And I asked him about that. I said, okay, I'd like to have one of these. How much is it? And he said, it's more than €1,000. So it must be more than $1,000 as well. So that's good for a dentist, but too expensive for me.
Yeah. It's good for you if the dentist is working on you.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm glad that the dentist can see what he's doing.
Magnifiers and light, a lot of light.
Okay, Bruce Lamb, what do you got?
Something that's not miniature, but it's not huge either. I was able to pick up some black box burl close to Lancaster, actually, in Hearn Lumber, or Hearn Hardwood, I guess. You guys must know that one. And I got more than one project out of the cap. This was kind of an odd shape. And so I kind of let the shape of the blank dictate what I got. And I was kind of pleased with how it came out. This is about a 5-inch in diameter, and it's probably a little more than maybe it's about a 1/4-inch lip on the rim. But I was kind of pleased with the shape that kind of emerged from the shape of the blank. Let's see, give you another view. I guess maybe this time of year it's kind of a cauldron shape, but I also then remembered that it's not fun to hollow that out, but it still works.
That is very beautiful wood. What is it again?
It's called black box burl. I assume it comes from Australia, although I bought it in Pennsylvania. But it really had nice color contrast, and the eyes are kind of in the bottom of the burl, and the more Strauss type structure there on the sides. And then, as I said, I got more than one project out of that piece of wood. And this was another vessel. This one's about 6 inches in diameter as well.
So if you're driving up to Lancaster area for burls, why don't you do it on Thursday mornings and drop in on us?
That could be done.
We're actually New Holland, but not too far.
And I figure that's not far from you at all.
Well, Groff and Groff is the lumber yard I go to the most. I have never been to Hearn Brothers.
And they have a real nice selection of burls and some turning blanks. Groff and Groff has more bowl blanks, I think, but I like them both. They're both nice suppliers.
Are they both on this hers down on the south side of Lancaster County?
I'm not sure where hers is.
Like Cordyville?
I couldn't answer that. They're both about an hour away from me. Hearn.
Is right outside Oxford.
Okay.
Whiteside, Oxford, PA.
Okay, that's nearby. Yeah. Okay. Did you finish showing what you wanted to show?
I did.
Okay. Who's next? There are questions for Bruce first. Any other questions? Okay. Bowman, you had a shot already, and I know Duxbury's got some stuff. So let's start going to Duxbury, and Angelo's here with his tools. Before we all lose remembering even anything about miniatures, Angelo, you ready with those tools?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's do that first.
Okay, so here are the 2 hook tools I use for turning the free rings.
Hold them closer to your face. The camera's arguing with itself about how to focus. Yeah, that's better.
There you go.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so the cutting tips are about a strong 30-second. I typically make the tools out of Allen wrenches. Just glue it into the handle and grind away the part I don't need. You can heat up the neck of the tool and crank it over to make yourself a hook tool to get around the shoulders. And this is a pen blank. Here's a couple more. Make them in a couple of different sizes and a couple of different thicknesses for different palm nuts. I was happy to hear this challenge come along because it haven't turned palm nuts in quite a while. So I mounted up a few. These are 2 tago nuts. I'm told that the longer they stay on the ground, the more yellow they get. When they come out of the tree, they're pretty white. This is raffia palm. And there's a bunch of others here. Zacchaeus nut or beetle nut. Uxie kernel, also known as pisaba palm.
Where do you get those nuts, Angelo? Online?
Yeah, there was a fellow, I don't know if he's still selling them. He was, he sold palmivory.com. I think his name is Gene Doran. He would sell a lot of these different kinds of species. Pisaba nuts you can find at any palm seed. Once you figure out what the biological or the botanical name is, you can buy them through seed supply stores. When we were in Hawaii one time, I found a branch of Zacchaeus nuts or beetle nuts, and I bought them, put them in my luggage, and they were confiscated by the time I got to the States. If you look up beetle nuts on the internet, you'll find beetle nut chewers. Contains a substance much like cocaine, and people wrap them in a palm leaf and chew them like tobacco.
Well, if it's soft enough to chew, how is it hard enough to turn one of those nut things? Is it
Well,
like
when it's fresh,
dry?
when it's fresh, it's soft. As it ages and dries, it becomes hard.
And does it do so in a way that doesn't crack?
I don't know if you can see on this little sample here, but you can see. Can you see all the little crenellations in there?
Yeah.
Those are like little bark inclusions. So you have to stabilize it as you turn it with thin super glue. A lot of the palm nuts are like that. This is magic medicine. And the pisaba nut also has the little speckles in it.
Huh. But they're monocots. They don't have a split in them. Like a lot of the plant seeds we get are dicots and they split.
Yeah, the tago nuts usually have lots of cracks in the center, like that. But this is big enough. The outside rim of the palm nut is sound. So I'm certain that I'll get something out of it. And there is where the germ is for the seed. Some of these palm nuts have gone on the endangered species list, and you can't really import the seeds anymore or buy the seeds anymore. So I don't know what stock Gene Doran has available, but you can check them out. Or if you want to come and peruse my collection, you can.
Thank you.
Okay, questions for Angelo? Thank you, Angelo. I'm going to remove this. Well, are you going to go get something else now?
No.
Okay.
I could, but then would drag along.
I had Duxbury next. Where's he going?
Okay, I'm here. First, I'd like to say for temporary or quick tools, I use a cut nail, drive it in the end of a 6-inch piece of broomstick. Why doesn't that thing focus? I can't believe this. It works great, Jolly. Come on. There it goes. I use a cut nail, drive it in the end of a 6-inch piece of broomstick and cut. Sometimes I make lefts and rights, and when I get done with them, I throw them away. But a cut nail's pretty hard. I sharpen it with a Dremel tool with that real thin black wheel. It cuts it pretty good, puts a nice edge on it. It may not hold an edge, but it works long enough to do what I want. So, and it's cheap. I thought I'd show this today. This is an inside out bowl kind of, I don't know. But it's kind of interesting. It's actually turned, it's one piece cut in half and flipped over so that the starter, it's actually, this is in 2 halves. This is about an 1/8 inch piece of walnut, I don't know, 8 inches square, glued to a piece of poplar. And you actually turn, what you see on the lathe the first time, you're seeing the woodworm, can't make my finger do this. The woodworm goes in here. So you're turning the inside of this first. And then you have to remember what you turn. And when you turn this over, you actually anchor, I put anchors through this thin piece of wood here and turn the outside and hope I didn't go through the inside. Okay?
Yeah.
Nobody's saying anything.
No, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
You're making sense.
That's the sort of thing that Stephen Hoagland showed us how to do back in the 70s, and every so often guys rediscover it. It's great.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, you can do all kinds of things with that. But this hole here is actually where the woodworm goes in first. And then, so you have to remember and go around that when you're turning the outside of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
Questions about that?
It's kind of fun. You can do all kinds of configurations, but usually you have to have some kind of a bump or something in the middle because you got a woodworm going in there. That's all.
Yeah.
I got a thing that I made that way. I'll bring next week to show you.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool.
That's a fun.
You got anything else?
No, that's it.
That's you for today. Okay.
You got it.
I'm going to remove the spotlight off you.
Yes.
Handsome as you are, and go back to the gallery view. I had Bowman next, and who else? Who else has got a hand up? Well, Bowman, it's yours right now. And then Alan Miller after that. Oops, I lost it. I got that blown again. Sorry.
John, Doug was asking about Hearn Hardwood. They're down near Oxford, Nottingham, down southeast, about an hour drive away.
Okay. There's Bowman. What do you got, Jim?
I have a palm-sized miniature here. We pulled a big, long American beech tree log. I mean, I'm talking 60 feet maybe, out of the river here. It'd been floating in our boardwalk for about a year, had barnacles on it. Well, I asked Eric Crum, and he said he thinks that's American beech, and I guess you would agree. I love the figure in it. What I do when I cut a chunk to turn a bowl or something, you know, the off pieces, I use a startup. You know, I'll throw them up in the lathe and see how the chisel feels on me. Sometimes I have cute ones, and if so, they end up at my granddaughter's house. But I just wanted to show you that. The only bite here is because the log was in the river, it's not rotted, but boy, does it stink. I'll tell you, my shop is barely bearable to be in. So this morning I put some Aussie oil on it and then coated it with some citrus wax, and it's bearable now. But yeah, I don't know, maybe sometime you want to make a challenge for palm-sized little bowls, you know, just the size that fits in your hand. So I have some other stuff, but I know there's other guys.
Jim, is that salt water marking, or is that just a grain from the
It's just
So it's not from the salt water, because I've seen salt water actually discolors the bowls and gives another layer to the color sometimes.
I don't think so, Doug. We are in a salt. We're in the end of the salt when the tide goes in and out. But I don't know. I never considered that. I think it's pretty much what you see for American Beach.
Okay.
So I've seen some other pieces since then, and this is the grain pattern. I have some big chunks. I'm going to try some bigger bowls now. Yeah.
Is that it for you right now?
Well, I can show you one other one real quick.
Go for it.
In case you guys didn't know it, I'm the president of the funnel club, because I love to make stuff out of funnels. This was a piece of punky, I guess it's walnut on the top here. And I went at it and took out all the punky stuff. And then the wormholes I filled with black CA glue. I made a mistake though, I won't do it again. I took some of the dust and mixed it into black. Well, it just looks crappy in my book. I wish I left it just pure black. I like black CA because it sets up quick. You know, I don't want to wait around for epoxy to clear up. Well, anyways, I cut through the bottom in the process because I had it glued on a block of wood, and I didn't realize how close I was getting to the bottom. And I cut through it. So I went and got a nice piece of black walnut from my pile and glued it on the bottom. I used black CA in the middle and then regular tight bond around when I glued it, so that when I sanded through this, which I knew I would, I lined up the grain also. I'm sorry, I can't get it right on camera here, but it follows the grain in this if you look real close. It was kind of a fun piece to work with. Yeah.
Nice save on the funnel.
Well, I have a lot of saves on funnels on my shelf. That's why I say I'm president of the funnel club. I do not like to throw stuff in the trash.
Alan Miller, what do you got today?
Sure. Working on a walnut bowl that's about 9 inches or so across and maybe 4.5, 5 inches deep. But my question for the group, it went wobbly on me, and so I did some gouging on the inside. But then there's on the bottom, there's also a good sized crack starting to show up here. I'm thinking I want to go with my biscuit joiner and put some, I don't even know what you call them across here, but any suggestions on how close or how far apart I place those, and whether I go with a dark or a light? I'm going to make the biscuits, but whether I go dark or light on that. I know, Ron, you've done some of this.
Yeah, I've done some biscuits. What you might consider is just 2 or 3 regular biscuits on that. Okay. I would make them different color so that it looks like you're trying to repair it rather than you're trying to put a similar color in and hide the crack. Because right. You're not going to do that, but it looked like you might, you're trying to. So that, like I always say, if you can't fix it, feature it.
Right.
There's a thing about biscuits too. If you put a little butterfly or something in there cross grain, you're actually going to hold the crack apart at the width it was when you installed it. Whereas if you don't do anything, it has at some time of the year it might close up. So,
Well, the bowl was it was getting wobbly and about ready to. I was concerned about it coming off the lathe. So where the crack is pretty close to the tenon.
Yeah.
How thick is the bowl at the bottom of the tenon there?
Well, at the moment, I think I still have 3/4 of an inch or so down there.
So why wouldn't you just cut your tenon, reverse grind, and then, because I doubt that crack goes much deeper than the actual grain. You could almost
make it smaller on the outside.
It goes pretty deep though. I see it along up to there anyhow.
Yeah, it does.
But you don't see it on the inside of the bowl yet, correct?
Not yet.
How wide's your wall just above that?
My wall is probably, oh, I'm guessing 5/8.
Well, you've
It's
got plenty of
it's
wood
reasonably
there.
thick yet.
Yeah,
You've got
turn
plenty of wood
turn
there
on
to
the
take
outside.
that down. You're better off taking it down to closer to a quarter, all the way
Yeah.
down through, and leave a little bit thicker on the bottom. You might get most of that crack out of there. And any
Exactly.
drying you'll do be more uniform.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
but
what I
the
would
question
consider.
still is with the tenon, the bowl was, I think I was forcing the crack apart, and so the bowl was not stable on the chuck.
Yeah.
But if you're reversing it, so you're taking out, if you actually try and smooth off the tenon completely, in other words, cut it, reverse chuck it so that you cut the tenon off, the whole thickness of the tenon out.
Fit the open part of the bowl in a jam chuck.
Yeah.
A jam chuck. Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it's
fair
not
enough.
a tenon, right? It is a recess, isn't it?
Recess.
I'm sorry. It's a recess. Absolutely. Yes.
So that's why you're pushing it apart. How dry is the wood at this point?
It's dry. I've had this piece for 40 years.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, reverse it and turn it thinner on the bottom. I mean, I think we're all betting that the cracks will pretty much go away.
Okay. That is helpful advice. And
I think I would make a jam chuck that
I was gonna
that
say-
would capture the outside of the rim.
okay,
Put it inside of a tenon on a jam chuck.
yeah. Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate it.
By the
Because
way,
you've got a recess, if you make make something to put over your live center, so you get, or at least take the point out of the live center, you won't mess up the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, you want to minimize the bottom damage. Depends
Right.
on how thick your bottom is.
It's got some, yeah, I've got 3/4 of an inch there anyhow, I think.
Oh yeah, lots of wood to get rid of.
Well, you could put a cup center on there without too much damage and clean that off when you're done.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Thank you.
by the way, Alan, I think I was trying to figure out how you're going to put a biscuit in there. I was thinking of a wood joining biscuit. You meant butterfly, right? Is that what you were talking about?
No, I was saying, I think a couple months back, Ron told us he used his biscuit joiner to cut things.
You basically use the biscuit as a spline. Make a slot and use a biscuit, and then most of the biscuit goes away. So you get the cross grain spline then.
Yeah, biscuits are pretty simple to do. A butterfly is more involved.
Right.
Putting the router template on and all that, but you could do either one, but the biscuit joiner is simpler.
Yeah, but the butterflies look like more fun.
Guy has his hand up.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna go to Kai next. We've got a couple minutes left only. Thank you, Alan. That's a good problem. Kai, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to show something to Jim Bowen.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So this is a little olive wood bowl, and it had a lot of cracks in there, and I filled them with super glue as well. But what I was told to do, and that worked pretty fine, is to put some wood dust into the cracks first, and then so still dry, and then pour the super glue onto the wood dust, so that the super glue glues the wood dust and the wood together, and you have to do that several times until all of the crack is filled. And then once it's filled, I turned a bit of it away and then sanded the rest of it away. But the super glue is pretty hard stuff in comparison to the wood, or it's harder than the wood. So it blunts your tools really, really quickly, and I had to resharpen the tools quite often. But the outcome was nice. I mean, you don't see it that good in the camera, but I'll try to take a photo and show it. So it filled the cracks really nice and made a nice.
You said you turned that after you glued it.
Yeah, I turned it first, then I put the super glue in it, and then I turned it again. So I got a nice even surface
I'll
on
fill
it.
things like that sometimes, but then I'm a little disappointed with the stain of the super glue. So what I'll do is I'll put the super glue on and hit it with sandpaper right away and sand, and you can sand off all of that super glue that's not in the crack. Of course, the crack is going to show, but that takes away the stain in the surrounding area. If you sand it right away while it's wet, and I do that a lot of times.
Okay. I sanded it once it was dry, but you are right. It depends a bit on the wood. With the olive wood, it worked really well, and with other woods I tried, you saw a stain around the crack because the super glue was soaked into the end grain or the grain there, and I couldn't sand that out. It was just too deep in the wood. But with this one, it worked pretty well, and I used ebony, is that right? Ebony. So this black African wood and I produced some dust from the wood, and then I filled the black dust into the cracks, and then the super glue. So just another idea, maybe.
So you had black dust. I was going, maybe I did it wrong. I used some dust from the actual piece, so it was a different color than the black. But you had a black dust that you put in, is that right?
Yeah, I wanted to have the contrast. So
yep.
I thought I can't match the color of the wood anyway. So I thought rather a good contrast than trying to match the color of the wood. And also, even if you can match the color of the wood one time, then the wood darkens over a period of time, and then you have it mismatched again. So yeah.
The other fun to put in glue and cracks is brass shavings and stuff. There's other stuff to throw in. I have used brass key shavings and cracks, and I like that effect. So
yeah, that's something you can do as well, of course. Yeah.
And I find it's really helpful to seal the bowl first before you use any super glue like that, so that you don't get that staining. But I've also had good results with some of these colored epoxies. I think epoxy makes a black as well. But if you don't want to wait for it to dry, obviously that's a problem because you're going to wait overnight for that. But there you get a nice full fill, and you can fill a deep crack without having to worry about chips and things like that in one shot.
Yeah, I agree. You need to seal the wood. I usually use a spray-on sanding sealer before I hit it with thin super glue. But my favorite fill for the crack is dried out coffee grinds.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
They're always brown.
Is there a problem with the sealer and the super glue? Does the super glue stick to the sealer if the sealer runs into the gaps that you want to fill?
Yeah, I was concerned about that, but it does seem to work fine. I use usually a tung oil sealer, which goes pretty deep, and I was worried about the adhesion of the super glue, but it doesn't seem to bother it.
That's right. I use Def sanding sealer in a rattle can for the same purpose.
I like to use graphite for, they have those door unlocking spray you put in. I use that kind of graphite at the bottom of mine. That really brings out the black in it real well.
And it's the same process. So you put in the graphite first and then pour the super glue over it?
Yeah, I put the graphite in. I also mix it whenever I do epoxy. I mix it in with epoxy. It doesn't take very much graphite. So either way, it works really well.
Can I add something?
Go for it.
Years ago, Bonnie Klein demonstrated for us, and she asked to have Zinsser's aerosol shellac. It's de-waxed, and it is the greatest thing to have. I've loved it for the last 10 years. And I just missed a very light coat on just a bit of Bounty paper towel and wipe it on. So you don't have enough that seeps into the crack, but it will coat the wood. And I just used it the other day on a mulberry bowl I'm working on, or it's finished, but I have to finish it. But it allows you, if you take some from a bottle, then it saturates the paper. But this, with the aerosol, you can just mist some on the paper towel or blue shop towel or whatever, and wipe it on, and it won't seep into the crack, but it'll coat it sufficiently. And it sands off extremely easily because it's not a thick coat. You can pick it up at Home Depot, anywhere the Zinsser stuff is.
Well, everybody, you've whiled away another delightful hour at the Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour. It's past 11 o'clock. So I'm going to thank you all for your eager and active participation. It's been a very fun and interesting hour, and we will see you all next week.